So I'm going to give you real world facts about why the new Toyota Tacoma had the issues in the snow you saw on the video from TFL Off-Road, where it broke the front axle differential assembly. And I'm going to explain exactly why this happened and what Toyota can actually do to fix it, for the current model. Now, for the following models, they're going to have to do something different, but for the current 2024 model, they could do this to alleviate the issue. So this is a torque curve of what I found on a forum, and this curve tells you true data of what the third generation torque ratings are and the fourth generation Toyota Tacoma torque curve is. And the reason why this is important is, you hear all these big numbers of 430 pounds of torque, and these are true, but they're at the flywheel. They're not at the wheel itself, the wheels. So this is true numbers of at the wheels. So if you look here, when you're giving it the gas off-roading, you're going probably, you're trying to get it going, you're using a little momentum, and it's spinning out. You're probably running it up to probably, anywhere from 3,000 to 3,800 RPM, maybe 4,000 RPM. And you're not flying 5,000 RPM when you're doing this, because, unless you really want to break something, you're not doing that. So, 3,000 to 3,800 RPM is probably your highest RPM you're going to be hitting when you're trying to get unstuck. So if you look at the older model, at those RPM ranges, the torque of the older model, because they're not a turbo engine, they are about anywhere from 210 to 220 foot-pounds of torque. So 210, 220. And if you look at the newer model, because they hit that torque so much quicker, it ranges from anywhere from 306, 310. So it's about 306, 310 foot-pounds of torque at that range, even a little higher sometimes. So your increase of torque is roughly 50%. So you're getting 50% more power, pushing pressure on that differential compared to the outcoming year, at that RPM range. So that means your differential needs to be 50% stronger. And that's not a fact. That's not happening. Now, this happens mostly when you're giving it the gas, when you're forward low and you're on snow, those wheels are going boom, boom, boom. So that's a big factor in it. Now, a fix for this is, in my opinion, the 2024s are already released. The only fix is really, of course, put beefier differentials in, but that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. So I think a true fix that the dealerships could do is to make it so that when the four-wheel drive assembly goes into forward low, it downgrades the torque at those lower RPMs. It cuts everything down a little lower. That way, you're not getting that massive amount of torque at lower RPMs. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I need 310 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPM. In reality, you don't. You do not need it. These trucks are running, maximum 35-inch tires. Even still, you don't want to put 310 foot-pounds of torque on a stock differential at 35-inch tire. You're just going to blow it up. Even if you beefed it up, you still don't need 310 foot-pounds of torque. If you look at these older vehicles, even 1980s, these vehicles had 180 horsepower at, the max RPM, and maximum amount of torque those things were running at the wheels were 220 pounds of torque. And they did great, off-roading. They did just fine. They had no issues. If anything, you get a little better control when you're going, at slower RPMs and kind of feathering things around, giving a little hell when you need it. But, That little hill, you don't need 310 foot-pounds of torque to do that. You just don't need it. So I think that a good fix would be if Tacoma, Toyota said when it's in forward low, downgrade the torque ratings at the lower RPM. That way you're not blowing up these differentials. And, in my opinion, I think this is a great idea because I don't want to blow up my truck either. So great idea. Now, when you're in 4 high or normal 4-wheel drive settings, then yeah, keep the normal torque ratings, keep everything normal because you need that higher torque rating. The new Toyota Tacoma is a great truck. It's a great design, great horsepower and torque, and we're really going to appreciate that extra torque when we're going up hills, when we're driving on the highway, when we're towing a trailer or a travel trailer. So we're going to really appreciate that extra torque because the old Tacoma, when you're going up those hills, it struggled pulling a travel trailer up those hills. Even a small travel trailer, it just really struggled. It was downshifting and upshifting over and over. And with that 50% extra torque, that's going to be great. So, like I said, 4 high or normal driving conditions, the torque ratings are great on the new Toyota Tacoma. And like I said, the new Toyota Tacoma is by far a better truck than the old one. It's just this one issue is you're going to have 50% more torque going to a differential that's not designed for it. So when you're driving this thing through the mud and everything, it needs to be downgraded, in my opinion, or put new differentials in it. But that's my opinion. Toyota Tacoma, downgrade this for the forward low. So that's my opinion on this. And, there's other options too, I'm sure. But this is the one I think that would be a good fix. And nobody would complain about it because it's going to keep your differential from blowing up. So that's it. And, I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of comments on this. So leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you next episode.